Okay, today we're looking at how we can incorporate those elements of perspective, that single point perspective, creating an interior space that we can then bring um, a, um, our figures into and our gesture drawings into. So we're combining what we've done in the past couple weeks into a new drawing. And so, this is one of those times I don't recommend you get a pencil and a ruler. Just use your pencil and paper if you're using Chrome Canvas or Sketchpad or whatever. We're just going to kind of sketch today, and I'd really like to see two or three attempts, uh, or at least if you're going to turn in one, try to kind of get it right a little bit and get a few different figures in different positions. And so one of the things I'd kind of like to do is start with. Let me find the image I'm looking for. Hold on one second. Okay, let's try this again. I've got the images I'm looking to use now, and I'm going to bring them up side by side here. So you all can uh, see the image I'm working from. Now, if you've got an image that you'd like to work from that you have of an interior space that shows that single point perspective and also has some figures in it, and I've chosen this one because this image uses that single point perspective. We're going to be able to identify the horizon line. We're going to identify our vanishing point. And we're going to be able then to make sure our drawings all kind of line up like they're supposed to. But we're also then going to be able to use that vanishing point to kind of help us establish, the height and the size that these figures should be. All right, so uh, we're going to still kind of keep things gestural though. And we're going to even as we try to get the perspective correct. We're not looking right away to start creating finished drawings. We want to just kind of work. Um, and I'll show you here kind of what I mean. Just kind of sketchy. You just wanting to work out your space. So I'm just gonna kind of draw in where I think I see sort of these different angles coming in, and that's sort of my back wall. And it's got a really nice molding there. Boy, I'd like to have that molding. You're all like, what do you care about molding? When you get old, you wish you had molding that's really nice. And then there's this little space that comes here. And it's kind of strange. It kind of has a weird place where it ends and where you can't really see that wall because of that other wall. I'm going to erase that. And what I'm doing is just mapping in sort of where I see these lines. Now, I'm going to try to identify that horizon line. And so I'm doing so by trying to identify where in this space. And so I'm looking at this gentleman's head, sort of that's back in this space. If you'll notice, and I make him a little to the right. Let's move him over a little bit so we give space for these other people. So he is somewhere sort of in this space. And again, I'm keeping it very gestural, just trying to mark out. He's kind of in that space back there. And I think because his eye line is about where ours would be, he's about my height, if you will. I'm going to make this really tiny, and I'm going to identify this in a real light orange. And I'm just going to just put in there. Oh, it's a little, kind of a little janky with it. All right. That's sort of my horizon line. And if we follow this line, sort of up to the horizon line, that's going to pretty much tell us where our vanishing point is. We can kind of verify it by seeing that those lines point to it. And then we can know that these lines, hey, these run parallel to that wall. They're going to point to that vanishing point as well. And so this little counter space will look something like that. So I'm going to switch back to my black here and just kind of sketch that in. And it's kind of a case here, got a clear case. So, and just like the bottom lines, the top lines are going to point up to that vanishing point as well. So my case is going to get a little smaller as it goes back into space. Same thing with this line over here. Okay, so I got something that looks like this. I got a little crazy on me, but and then it's kind of got these little legs that come down. And again, I'm just kind of sketching in that space. I'm keeping it very loose and free, very gestural, just trying to capture sort of what's going on there. But we want to look at how not only are we getting that interior space, and I'm kind of liking that. I feel like my three-dimensional space is happening pretty good. I'm going to kind of identify that this is a side of a wall, so I want to be able to see that. And again, these little things will point up to that the bottom here of this one, the top of it here, would point to that vanishing point on this little edge of this wall as well. And so that's my basic sketch. Now you know how I like to do this. I'm going to go ahead and add some layers here. Boom, boom, boom. I'm going to go to this little top layer. Oop, not turn it off, but go draw on it. And I'm going to bring in my pen here. I like that. All right. And now I'm going to start just kind of mapping this in a little more solidly here. And just sort of identify where these lines are going. I'm not going to draw in those red lines here. Oh, I don't like that line. There we go. Oh, don't like that. All right, and so I'm just kind of blocking in the most basic outlines, and those we're calling these, contour lines, because these contour lines identify that outside shape of the object. These are really, of course, very straight contour lines, obviously. And so now I want to start looking at how can I put my figures in here, and I'm even going to go to another layer here, and I'm going to go back to my pencil, turn that up past it a little bit, size down, and I want to think about like there's this guy back here, and there his kind of body shape is like so, and he's got that torso. And his legs aren't real super visible, but he's just kind of standing very calmly, and maybe his hands are in his pockets or something. I'm just going to kind of put him to the side. And then we see that there is this sort of, it looks to be a female figure sort of in this space. And I kind of just going to map her in. And again, her waist is going to be sort of comparable in line with where his waist would be. But because she's taller, if you'll notice, because just like these go back into space now, they don't have to go all the way back to this particular vanishing point because if you'll notice, they're on a little different plane, but they're real close. So you're going to see that her feet are going to be sort of in here. And so she stands like so. And this is her kind of her torso and her hips and then her legs. And remember, when we're doing gestures, we want to kind of pay attention to those things. Next to her is sort of this gentleman, and he's a little bigger because he's even closer to us, and his arms are sort of crossed. But we see his sort of spine might do something like this. And again, if we look kind of the hips also go down at that angle as they follow, and his legs do something like that, and his feet are going to be down in this area, and he's kind of standing there. And of course, he needs a head. His head's a little forward, and his kind of gives him a little bend in his back there. And then the other nice thing that we have here that helps us understand this perspective, in addition to the figures, are all these little paintings here. And so I can sort of draw one or two little perspective lines that are going to go back and point to that vanishing point. And then I can start thinking about just individual paintings and so forth. I'm just going to kind of sketch in where a few of them might go, like so. And then when I bring my marker back in here in just a moment, I can kind of lay them out a little better. I'm going to put in this figure, and again, she is about as tall as this guy and real close to about the same level. She's back just a little further. She's kind of in this space if she was online with them, so her feet are going to end up being in this area. And she's kind of got a little twist in her spine. If you notice, she's kind of staying a little sideways, and her arm kind of comes down. And she's got her purse on there, and her kind of left arm kind of maybe goes in like that. And so we've got her torso, and then her hips come out. And so she's in that area. And then we have this gentleman who's really the largest figure because he's technically the one closest to us. And I really kind of like the shape he makes. He's kind of bent over this case a little bit. And so his shape sort of does something like this. We see his hands are back in his pocket. And we got something like that. Again, gesture drawings. We're just trying to capture the people in the space, the gestures of that they would be in and they would maybe be making. I'm going to just kind of pop in where these, there might be some paintings going on here in the back. Um, she's looking at one here. And so I'm not going to have to be real precise because I'm just doing a little sketch here of what's going on. Now, the last thing I'm going to do with this basic sketch is bring in yet another awesome layer here because I love the layers. And sort of better define these individuals. His hand's going in his pocket here. And there's that woman back there. And I like to go ahead and start bringing in a little value at this point. So you'll see that once I've sort of defined what's going on with the characters, and I just kind of want to show his arms are out here, maybe crossed a little bit. And again, I'm just looking to kind of capture the gesture, capture any movement or emotion, feeling we can kind of get from what's going on. Again, think about how that head is out in front of the body on him. And then we've got this guy in the back, and his head's kind of doing something like that, maybe a little bit. And so the last thing I'm going to do with the little sketchy parts is just kind of put in where a couple of these paintings would be. And I'm really just making some random rectangles for this part that show those perspective lines that show that even these paintings, every line, top and bottom, that run parallel with each other, run towards that vanishing point, or point towards that vanishing point. All right, and again, remember what we're doing here is we're kind of developing slowly, figuring out where we're going to start developing our graphic novel images, and so as you start to do panels in the graphic novel, you want to be able to work sort of quickly because you don't want to spend days on each little panel. But so you'll be able to capture those gestures, capture the movement quickly, and you're going to start figuring out your own style a little bit. And so to that end, I'll start talking just quickly about how you might add value to some of these. And I like to kind of work real slow with my value and bring value in layers, kind of. And that's why I'll turn the opacity down on some of these things and maybe bring my size down a little bit. But I'm just going to kind of just find some of that value. We see how dark it is up here in this spaces, and I'm just going to kind of identify some of those values and maybe look for some of the shadows in front of the people and that sort of thing. And then the last thing I want to do, just so you all can kind of see, and I'll probably continue working on this. You'll see probably the next few days as we have class is how much I continue to sort of work on this drawing. But I'm going to turn this layer off. I'm going to turn, nope, not that layer. I'll leave that layer on. Where is it? Oh, that's it. Turn that layer off. So this is sort of what I would be looking for in my sort of finished sketch drawing that demonstrates gestural figures in a single point perspective sort of space. Yours doesn't have to look like this. Yours doesn't have to be anything like this at all. But what I want you to do is be able to kind of understand what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how you can start to create the same idea. Those spaces that go back into depth. You know, they have depth that create um, that perspective by using those perspective lines, the vanishing point, but also capture the movement, the emotion of those gesture and those individuals. I look forward to seeing what you guys are turning in. Have a great day.